My wife cheated and my stepdaughter mocked me, saying I was never her real dad. So I erased myself from their lives, and they didn't expect how fast everything collapsed without me. Hello Reddit I plus here. I never imagined that the family I built with my own hands would collapse because of the very people I sacrificed everything for. My name is Julián Ortega. I'm 41 years old, and I've lived in Monterrey most of my life. When I was 29, I met Camila during our last year at university. She was 2 years younger than me, ambitious, clever, and she had this charm that could light up any room. But she also had a secret. The first time I went to meet her parents, I noticed a little girl clinging to her mother's hand. She couldn't have been older than 7. Out of politeness, I asked if she was Camila's cousin. I'll never forget the silence in the room. Camila's face stiffened, and then she said, "No, she's my daughter." Her daughter's name was Lucia, born when Camila was 19. The father? He disappeared the moment she started university. I remember leaving that evening torn in two. Half of me wanted to walk away, but the other half couldn't ignore the way Camila begged me to stay. Against my better judgment, I stayed, and slowly, I began to fall for not just Camila, but also Lucia. She started calling me Papa by the time she was 9. I attended her school plays, helped her with homework, and promised myself that I would be the father she never had. Years went by. Camila and I married in 2015. 4 years later, in 2019, I legally adopted Lucia. It was one of the happiest days of my life. I thought I had finally built the family I always wanted. Then, in 2021, our son Mateo was born. I was overjoyed. For a while, life felt perfect. Camila stayed at home after Mateo's birth. I supported it, thinking she needed rest and bonding time. But in early 2023, things began to change. She started going out more, always claiming she was meeting her friends. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I told myself she needed space after being cooped up with a baby. But then came the secretive calls. The way she would step outside with her phone pressed tightly to her ear, whispering. I asked her once who it was. She brushed it off as just gossip with Mariela. My instincts told me otherwise. The breaking point came one evening in May. I arrived home after a long day at work to find Mateo crying on the floor. The smell hit me before I even picked him up. His diaper was soaked and filthy. It looked like it hadn't been changed all day. Rage boiled inside me. I stormed outside with Mateo in my arms and found Camila laughing into her phone. Without thinking, I snatched it from her and bolted inside, locking the door behind me. I didn't want to hear excuses. I wanted the truth. The voice on the line confirmed everything. A man, with a tone too familiar, called out her name and asked, "Who's that?" I spoke into the phone. Her husband. He hung up instantly. My suspicions were no longer suspicions. They were facts. I dug through the chats, screenshotting everything before she could get back inside. Messages filled with secrets, late-night plans and confessions of love. Her lover wasn't some random stranger. It was her former boss, Alejandro. 5 minutes later, she was banging on the glass door, begging to be let in. When I finally opened it, she slapped me across the face, while I was still holding Mateo. She realized immediately what she'd done, her eyes widening in horror. She tried to hug me, sobbing apologies, but I pushed her away. We sat at the dining table. I told her plainly, "This is your one chance to tell me everything. No lies, no excuses. You fumble this, and our marriage ends tonight." At first, she tried to minimize it. "It wasn't serious," she insisted. "We just talked a lot." "You don't understand," I cut her off. "You left our son in filth to flirt with another man. Don't tell me it's not serious." I asked 3 questions. Who? How long? And did you sleep with him? Her answers came slowly between tears. Who? Alejandro. How long? 6 months. Did you sleep with him? She stayed silent. Her silence was louder than any confession. But the betrayal didn't end there. A few days later, I discovered something far worse. Lucia, the girl I raised, the one I adopted as my own, had known. She had been covering for her mother. When Camila claimed she was visiting friends, Lucia lied to me saying, "Don't worry, Papa, I know where she is." When I confronted her, Lucia screamed, "You're not even my real dad!" Why should I betray my mom for you? That broke something in me. All those years of loving her, providing for her, defending her, and she threw it back in my face the moment things got hard. I told her I was done. I canceled her university tuition on the spot. She was 19 now, old enough to stand on her own if she wanted to side with her mother. As far as I was concerned, she wasn't my daughter anymore. The house grew quiet after that. Camila moved into her sister's apartment. Lucia went with her. Mateo stayed with me. For the first time, I truly understood what it meant to be a single father. Camila has been begging me to reconsider, saying it was a mistake, that she can change. But how do you come back from betrayal that deep? from realizing that the family you built was willing to turn on you. I look at Matteo now, and I know I can't let him grow up in a house where lies and infidelity are normal. My marriage is over. My bond with Lucia, shattered, but I refuse to let my son pay the price for their choices. And so, here I stand, not just a man betrayed, but a man reborn. I lost a wife and a stepdaughter, but I gained clarity. And clarity, I've learned, is worth more than any illusion of family. The days after Camilla left were filled with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the heavy silence that sits on your chest at night and keeps you awake. Matteo was the only reason I kept going. At just 3 years old, he didn't understand why Mama wasn't home anymore, why his big sister no longer came into his room to play. Every time he asked, "Papa, donde está Mama?" I felt my heart crack a little more. But my anger kept me sharp. Camila tried to reach out constantly at first. Late-night calls, endless texts, emails, that swung wildly between apologies and accusations. Some nights she'd write, "I'll do anything, please, let's fix this." Other nights she'd spit venom, "You're heartless. You'll never find someone like me again." I ignored her. Until one morning, a letter arrived from her lawyer. She wanted joint custody of Matteo. I nearly laughed. The same woman who left him sitting in filth while she flirted on the phone now claimed she deserved equal rights to him. But I wasn't laughing for long, because I knew custody battles aren't about who's right, but who has the better case. So I prepared. I printed out every message I'd screenshotted from her phone. I gathered statements from neighbors who'd seen her leave Matteo alone, and I hired one of the best family lawyers in Monterrey. Meanwhile, Lucia, the girl I once called my daughter, tried to worm her way back in. At first, she messaged me pretending to be concerned. "Papa, maybe you misunderstood Mama. She loves you. Can't you forgive her?" When I didn't respond, the tone shifted. "If you cut us off, you're going to regret it. You think Matteo won't hate you one day for keeping him from his real family?" That message burned. For a moment, I questioned myself. Was I really the villain here? But then I remembered the truth. She had chosen her mother's lies over the man who had raised her. She had spit in my face with, "You're not my real dad." No, I wasn't the villain. I was the one who had finally stopped playing fool. The first custody hearing was brutal. Camilla walked in dressed like an angel of innocence. White blouse, hair perfectly combed, crocodile tears in her eyes. She spoke about how much she missed her baby boy and how I was turning him against her. But then my lawyer stood up and presented the screenshots. The chats with Alejandro, the nights she abandoned Matteo, the photographs of her leaving the house at midnight while our son was asleep inside. The judge's expression shifted from sympathy to disgust. Camilla's mask cracked right there in the courtroom. She screamed at me in front of everyone, calling me a manipulator, a liar, a monster. The judge ordered her to calm down or be escorted out. That outburst probably cost her the case more than any evidence I had. In the end, I was granted primary custody. Camilla would only have supervised visitation twice a month. When the verdict was read, she shot me a look I'll never forget, a look of pure hatred. That was the moment I realized she didn't want Matteo out of love. She wanted him to punish me. Alejandro, her lover, eventually ditched her too. I found out through a mutual friend that his wife had discovered the affair and threatened to ruin him publicly. He cut Camilla off cold. She had destroyed her marriage, her career reputation, and her family for a man who wouldn't even fight for her. And Lucia? She stayed with her mother at first, but reality hit her harder than she expected. Without my financial support, her tuition was gone. She tried to get a part-time job, but it wasn't enough to cover her rent, books, and living expenses. One night, she showed up at my door, eyes red, voice trembling. "Papa, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. Can you help me? Just until I finish school." For a long moment, I just looked at her. This was the same girl I'd tucked into bed, the same one who once begged me to adopt her so she could really be my daughter. But then I remembered the sting of her words. "You're not my real dad." I told her calmly, "Lucia, you made your choice. You chose your mother's side. You defended her lies. You disowned me long before I disowned you. Now you live with the consequences." She broke down crying on my porch, but I didn't open the door again. Matteo was sleeping inside. I wasn't about to let her chaos back into his life. Months passed. The calls from Camila slowed. The visits became irregular. Sometimes she wouldn't show up at all for her scheduled time. Matteo stopped asking for her. Slowly, he accepted the new normal. Just him and me. And in that quiet, I began to rebuild. I poured myself into work, earning a promotion at my firm. I started therapy, not just for myself, but to learn how to be the best father possible for Matteo. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my marriage. Piece by piece, I became whole again. Meanwhile, Camilla and Lucia drifted further into ruin. Camilla was fired from her job after her affair scandal spread. She moved from her sister's apartment to a smaller place, then to renting a single room. Lucia dropped out of university, unable to keep up with tuition. Every now and then, people would ask me if I regretted being so harsh, especially with Lucia. I always gave the same answer. I gave her everything. I gave both of them everything. They threw it away, and I stand by that. Now, when I tuck Mateo into bed at night, I feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The storm is over. But sometimes, when I look at him, I also feel a fire in my chest. A determination. He will grow up knowing the value of loyalty, the cost of betrayal, and the strength it takes to walk away from people who don't respect you. Because in the end, betrayal didn't break me. It freed me.